So all the discussion that we have been doing about GDP so far, the definition that we had for GDP so far is basically the nominal GDP. That's called the nominal GDP, also known as NGDP. Okay, so NGDP of any given year, NGDP of any given year is basically the quantities of the given year, the quantity of the different goods that are produced times the price of the given year, and you add this up. I hope you understand this sign. This is the summation sign or the aggregation sign, where I is equal to 1 to n, where n is the number of goods that are produced in the economy. So for example, if I was finding the nominal GDP, if I was finding the nominal GDP of 2018, then I would do the price of 2018 times the quantity of 2018, and I would do this for all goods that are produced, goods and services that are produced in the economy. So if say the economy is producing 5 goods, then I would do this for good 1 plus good 2 plus good 3 all the way till good 5. That is what I am trying to say. Okay. So that is basically the definition of nominal GDP. Now please understand what is the problem with this nominal GDP. Let's try to understand that for a minute. Let's say I have the nominal GDP of 2018 is $200. Okay. So I basically got this 200 by doing price of 2018 times quantity of 2018 for whatever goods that were produced during 2018. I did that for all the goods and I added them up. Say the nominal GDP of 2015 was $100. Okay. So what I did here is I did price of 2015 times quantity of 2015. Now based on these numbers, can I really say that the nominal GDP has doubled between 2015 and 2018? And does that really mean that the production of the country, the production ability of the country has doubled? Well, apparently it may seem that the answer is true because 200 is double of 100, but please note that that is not actually true in reality, because this number, doubling of this number, does not mean that there has been an increase in production of the country. Why? Because I could have got this 200 by doing 2 times 100, and I could have got this 100 by doing 1 times 100. That means this quantity may have stayed the same between 2015 and 18, and what could have driven this increase may be the increase in price. So it really does not mean, if nominal GDP rises, it does not mean that the total volume of goods and services produced has increased. Okay, it could be driven by an increase in price, or in other words, nominal GDP does not tell you anything about price adjustments over time. It could be you could get big numbers for nominal GDP, although your country might be producing the same amount, or it could actually be producing less, but just that the produced goods are getting sold at a higher price. Okay, so nominal GDP is not a very good indicator of the macroeconomy or the production ability of the macroeconomy. So we need another measure that would adjust for changes of price over time, and that measure is the real GDP, RGDP or real GDP. The RGDP of any given year is the quantity of that given year times the price of a base year, where the base year is any other year that is used for reference. Okay, so basically if I write that formula down, then for different goods that are produced, if I am looking at the real GDP of, let's say, 2018, then basically I'm looking at the quantity of 2018 times the price of a base year, and that base year could be any year like 2000, 2010, 2005, anything, and but I would still have to add up for all the goods that are produced in the economy, assuming there are n goods produced in the economy, where n could be any number, billions and zillions of goods are produced, right? If there are 3 goods produced, you would do this for the 3 goods and you would add for each individual good. That is real GDP. Now, how is the real GDP helpful? Please, let's see what we are doing here. Let's say the real GDP of 2018 is 300. The real GDP of 2015 is 100, and let's say my base year is 2010. That's my base year. So that's my reference year. So according to the formula, the real GDP of 2018 is quantity of 2018 times price of the base, that's 2010. For 2015, it would be quantity of 2015 times price of the base, that is 2010. So now please note that any difference that you see here must be driven by the quantity, because we have pegged the price to a reference year. You are using the price of the same year, the reference year or the base year. So that means any difference that you see in this number must be driven only by the difference in quantity. It cannot be due to the difference in price, because you are precisely using the same price, the reference year price. Okay, so now any difference that you see in the real GDP, you can say that okay, this difference is because of the increase in the actual production ability of the country. So that's why the real GDP is a better measure. Now for your assignments that you're going to do, the quizzes that you're going to do, this is the formula that you should be remembering. The NGDP formula is something you should be remembering. There are questions on the practice sets which you will practice, and there are also questions on your problem solving video that I am going to do to kind of resolve any issues that you may have. But please note that these are some formulae that you must memorize: the nominal GDP formula and the real GDP formula. Now, just knowing the real GDP is not enough. For example, I will give you some numbers. For example, in 2017, the US GDP, the GDP of USA was roughly like $21 trillion. Okay, for Bolivia, it was about $37.5 billion. Okay, so if you look at these numbers, just the numbers, for GDP, you will say, okay, US is much bigger economy than Bolivia, so US is growing more than Bolivia and US is prospering more than Bolivia. Well, the answer may not be true, because if you look at the growth rate, if you look at the growth rate of GDP and real GDP, then you will see for US the growth rate in 2017 was 2.3%, whereas for Bolivia the growth rate is 4.2%. Now there may be reasons why the US economy is growing slower than Bolivian economy. We are not going into those reasons yet, but all I'm trying to say is that these absolute numbers do not tell you anything about the pace of growth of an economy, how fast the economy is growing, or what is the magnitude of that growth. So it is also important to know how to find out the growth rate of real GDP, because that kind of gives you a lot of information about how fast, how rapidly your country is growing. So next we are going to look at some formulae for those other indicators that are important for understanding the macroeconomic health. So we will look at some of those other formulae. So these are the two main formulae, nominal and real, and you know that the real one is better than the nominal because it adjusts for price changes over time. In the next video, we will look at some other formulae that are used for indicating the macroeconomic health of a country.